Well, look at what we have here. The intel community is supposedly claiming that they have solved the hacking issue that President Trump's campaign just recently went through, and we told you about on this show. Now, in case you missed it, President Trump's campaign was hacked by so-called Iranian hackers. That's what the intel community wants you to believe. And they're detailing to the New York Times exactly how they think this all took place. Now, again, folks, anytime the intel community is pushing something, my flags go up. Anytime the New York Times is also pushing it, my flags go up. And then there was this little snippet in this article that I want to make sure you at home saw, of course. The New York Times is claiming, according to the intel buddies, that the reason why Iran was able to hack President Trump's campaign was through Roger Stone. Apparently, they're revealing that Roger Stone had two of his email addresses compromised, his Hotmail and his Gmail account, they're saying. And they're saying that's how the intruders, the Iranian hackers, were able to impersonate him and gain access to the emails and campaign aids. And that threw up all different types of signals. And I've been calling around all day to ask people what they thought specifically. But it reminded me of a man named John Podesta. Many of you guys might know him. He's the individual who, during the DNC hackings that took place back in 2016, WikiLeaks, as many of you guys know it, he supposedly had his emails hacked, the intel community told us, by the Russian boogeyman. And so, again, I bring up this article as well because it details exactly how they were pushing the fact that the hacking was to blame by Russia. And so now that we're in 2024 mode, all my flags are going up. Now, I reached out to a couple of my trusted sources, those who said I could use their names. So I wanted to break that down for you. Our good friend George Hill, many of you guys know he's an FBI whistleblower. He's come on the show several times. He did run over at the FBI field office in Boston, one of their cyber programs, and he was an expert, handled it for years. So I specifically asked him about whether or not he believed it. And I specifically went through the accusations that were being made by the intel community. Now, he said, yes, Iran really does have a great hacking group that can go after a lot of people. Specifically, he says it's second best to Israel. And then he says that they do have the capabilities to do exactly what's being detailed by the FBI currently, and CISA as well. And he said that he actually, and to give him more, kind of a backing, he was actually the one who was warning all of his fellow FBI colleagues about Iran and was going through how they do all of these activities when it comes to hacking. But then when I got down to the part where I mentioned Roger Stone's name and how they're using him as a cop-out as to how they were able to hack it, he said, well, that throws up a red flag. And I'm like, yes, it does. Yes, it does. So again, he cited the fact that he heard that back in 2016, that same excuse being used. So really no surprise here. I also reached out to our good friend, Mike Benz, the cyber expert, obviously our go-to source whenever I want to talk CISA. And Mike Benz says he's not buying it either. So take that for what it's worth, folks. I want to bring in someone who's probably not buying this either. My great friend, Mel K, is joining us. Mel, thank you so much for jumping on. I am so happy to have you on the show. I want to remind our audience that you do have a show on Rumble as well that they all should go and head over to and subscribe to. And you just recently released a book that I wanted to put up for our audience to go head over to Amazon and to get that as well. Americans Anonymous, Restoring Power to the People, One Citizen at a Time. So I love that. I love the cover. You look amazing. It's very Florida themed too, so I'm a big fan. So Mel, this is great. Yes. Well, Mel, thank you for joining me. Listen, when I was digging through this article, this New York Times article, I laughed because all the red flags went up, right? They're citing Iran, which is kind of strange given the fact that I get it. Iran doesn't like President Trump. We all know that, but we all know that the Biden administration would love another war to happen right now. And so they always find these boogeymen. And then I also don't trust our intel community because, again, they've lied to us before in the past. So, Mel, what are you making of all of this? Because they're trying to pin this on Roger Stone and saying that his email got hacked, and that's how they were able to get to all of this. Right. It doesn't sound that simple, though.
Yeah, well, first of all, Roger Stone absolutely says this is BS, and I believe him. On top of that, we cannot forget the relationship between the Biden regime and Iran. Do not forget that when Obama walked out the door in 2020, he sent $400 million in a pallet of cash to Iran, apparently. Everyone talked about it. Everyone knew about it. It's not fake news. And nobody had any explanation why Obama would be paying him off after Trump had already won the election at that point. So that's weird. Then, shortly into the Biden regime, they hired multiple people from this Iranian Experts Initiative, IEI, and that included Malley, who a lot of people have reported on, the lead negotiator between Obama and Iran during the Iran deal. Then he was brought into the Biden White House. Then he hired a whole bunch of other people that have been suspected of being spies. Malley since has been suspended and apparently his security clearance taken. But there was another woman, Taba. Her name is Tabai. So if I torture it, I'm sorry. Tabi. Anyway, she was also swept into the White House, and many emails have been released. Lee Smith reported on it pretty in depth a few months ago. And basically, this is an influence. She's part of an overseas influence operation of academics that is overseen and works for the foreign ministry. That is what is suggested by a lot of these emails. She was working for Malley, and Malley since had promoted her, and she ended up being in employment in the Defense Department. She actually is a assistant in the Defense Department, and many people had asked how she got security clearance, why she's there, and certainly after Malley was suspended, it caused even more questions of why she was there. This is an entire group that is connected to a lobbying group that is also connected to Iran, but even more to the Muslim Brotherhood in Qatar. And, you know, the number 2 most visited group to Obama's White House was the Muslim Brotherhood. So the question here is, who are they working for if it's Iran, first of all? And second of all, who you have to look at the big picture and think who gains from leaking things to the Washington Post, the New York Times, and the Guardian. Okay, those are all trusted news sources, as we know. In other words, intelligence television. So that this whole thing ended up being a hack by Iranians. Again, where'd they get the ability to do that? Who's involved? But are you telling me? And of course, CISA's the one that came out who said that we had the most secure election ever, and then reports came out that they were absolutely not safe or secure. But what comes out on the other side is that all of these people still linked together, and there's many other of them that are connected to the Biden-Obama White House. And some are still there, some aren't, but there's never been much of an explanation. Also, don't forget, Biden released $6 billion to Iran this year as well. So, or last year, right before the attack. So where we are right now is there is a very disconcerting relationship. The Defense Department and Anthony Blinken have defended the Iranian Tabatabai and also Malley and some of the other choices that were put into our Defense Department or Pentagon. But frankly, it does appear that this is an intelligence operation, as you're saying. And the idea that our intelligence community, NSA, DNI, all of them with their cushy relationships with the Five Eyes nations and relationships with all of big tech are questioning. There's no going forward. There's no indictment. There's no information, as always. And frankly, the Iranian regime has been too close for comfort with the Obama administration. We know that it's all the Obama team. They went to West Exec and then they popped back in when they replaced Trump with themselves. And it's the same old, same old. And don't forget, there are many relationships between the Crossfire Hurricane team and Iranian regime. Also, John Kerry and the Iranian regime. All these people were in the White House. So now they're throwing, Iran under the bus as if they haven't been working hand in glove with them through the entire Obama administration and then pop back in and continued since Biden has been in office. So you have to be very naive to take what they're saying at face value at this point.
Yeah, well, that's the problem here, right? They continue to push all this stuff out. The New York Times isn't going to ask them any hard questions. They're just going to run for whatever they tell them to run at this point. And it's interesting because I posted this on Twitter earlier today, and one of my followers actually posted this newspaper cover. Many of you guys might recall "The Spies Who Lied," and so we joke all the time, but it's really not funny. But the intel community has really shot itself in the foot. Or they want to be credible. They want you to believe what they have to say. But again, we have the evidence that over 51 of these folks lied just to push Joe Biden into the White House, and they've done everything possible to get him where he is today. So we really cannot trust them. Someone joked and said, should we get 52 members of the intel community? Maybe you'd believe it then, Breanna. And obviously that's a no. It's not going to happen anytime soon. But they're claiming that I guess it would be like the Biden-Harris campaign at the time also had their computers attempted to get hacked, but they did not get completely hacked. But they're not showing any evidence of this. They're just throwing that out there, pretending like it's fair and balanced. Mel, when we sit here and we criticize the intel community and we say things like we can't trust them, and we should always have these kind of doubts, they make it seem like it's a conspiracy theory, but you and I know that it's not a conspiracy at this point, that they've shot themselves in the foot and they've done this to themselves. And you're all about giving power back to the people. So when they're reading articles like this, for those at home, how can they kind of spot these red flags that when you and I are reading them, it kind of goes off in our head? How do you spot them?
Well, first of all, you have to understand that there's been an ideological capture of most of our agencies at this point. And besides that, the intel community that is actually running on the front end are from the unconstitutional Patriot Act that have completely abused their power. All of the spying on we the people, the quiet skies list, everything that happened with Julian Assange, with everything that we know about the wiretaps, or I guess they're not wiretaps anymore, but we all know what happened in Crossfire Hurricane and the evidence that has come out of that. So the bottom line is these people will keep power by any means necessary. And frankly, to think that Iran could do anything with our level of capability, technology, partners around the world without our intelligence community knowing exactly where it's coming from, exactly what's happening is laughable. First of all. Second of all, who does it benefit to do this? It benefits only them because now they have plausible deniability. Iran hacked it, whatever. Right now, we're not talking to Iran because of this dreaded, horrible foreign policy from Afghanistan to Syria to Israel to Ukraine. The world is not on our side because of Obama and Biden and this regime that has terrorized the world, frankly, in the last several years. And here we are again. Now they're trying to push a war with Iran. Probably Donald Trump will end the war, the perpetual war, and probably not want to escalate with Iran and try to find peace. So who benefits from the continuous war and from the American people believing that Iran is the bad guy? And I'm not saying Iran's the good guy. I'm not saying Russia's the good guy, but I'm certainly sure at this point that neither is the United States. This isn't the people of this country. We have a parent company running the United States of America and an regulated, no oversight, out of control intelligence community that was totally, I guess you would say, infiltrated or, cleaned out of anyone that did not side with Obama and his handlers. And frankly, at this point, they don't work for us. They work for the parent company. The three branches of government, as Tucker recently said, are terrified of this intelligence branch. It came out of the unconstitutional Patriot Act. And frankly, we're at a place where the Department of State is not being honest about really anything that's going on with this country. We don't even know who the commander in chief is right now. We don't know who's calling the shots. So why would we believe anything at this point? And that it was leaked to the Washington Post and the New York Times, which are CIA and FBI, I think, connected, both of them, tells you everything you need to know. And again, you brought up earlier the hack John Podesta WikiLeaks emails that they blamed on Russia. A total, complete lie that CrowdStrike lied about. And frankly, hopefully, Julian Assange will say, but he said flat out that they did not get the information from Russia. Most of us think from Seth Rich is where it came from. But again, doesn't it seem like the same playbook? Don't look here, look there. And the only solution is to demand that we have paper ballots, IDs at the ballot box, and count the ballots where they're submitted on that day. You know, this is going to be about ballots. They're sending out ballots to everyone and anyone that gets a driver's license. They're saying 500 to a million per state of illegals registering to vote, or people that don't qualify or don't exist. So, you know what? Here's the solution, Siza. If it's so dangerous, and hackers last week told The Intercept that they can get into our system and everything's come out, so then let's just solve it all. Let's go to paper ballots, let's go to hand counting, and let's go to voter ID. If we're saying all these months earlier that it's compromised, be it by Iran or whoever else, well, what's the solution? To keep everything in America with no chance for compromise.
Yeah. Well, we know that very well. And Democrats at one point supported that, Mel. They supported it when President Trump was running in 2016. They had no problem coming out and talking about how voting machines were hackable. I've played that reel several times on this show. And they have no problem asking for ID to get into the DNC, of course. But if it's a voting booth, oh no, that's racist. And they don't want you asking for that. It's absurd, but it's not a legitimate argument. They know that the people aren't on their side. Even Democrats agree that the voters should be showing their actual IDs when they come into their booths to vote. I just actually voted today in Florida, and they asked for me for my ID, and they actually gave me a hard time because I recently moved, and like, wait a minute, this doesn't match, but your voter registration is right. And I was probably there for about 5 minutes while they went to verify it. But that's a difference, right? Florida Republicans fought to make sure that you had to verify you are who you are, match the signatures, make sure your IDs match. But that's not everywhere. My sister just called me in New York. They're just mailing out mail-in ballots to everyone who's registered. And again, they don't ask for it. The people in New York actually said no when they were asked about it one election. It was on their ballot. Democrats and Republicans did not want universal mail-in ballots. But of course, Democrats in New York went above and beyond, and they're being sued for it, but they actually just don't care. They don't care what the voters want. They want fraud. And so they're going to do whatever they can to get there. Mel, I wanted to remind our audience that you just released your book right now. So we'll remind them to head on over to purchase that. It's available right now over at Amazon. Mel, you're my go-to source for a lot of this. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you so much. I love your show. Keep up the great work.
There's a sale going on right now that you cannot miss out on, and it's over at mypillow.com. Mike Lindell is having his $25 extravaganza. It's going on right now for a limited time, so you don't want to miss out on this, of course. Take a look around. He's got pillows, bed sheets, sandals, slippers. So many items are on sale now. Even the towels I know you all love so much. And if you have a dog, good news, the dog bed is also on sale. Now, the best promo code to use when you head on over there is BRE. That's BRE. That will save you up to 66% off. So again, folks, when you head over to mypillow.com, make sure you use that promo code BRE if you're looking to save the most money. We don't know how long this sale is going to last, folks, so don't waste out. Make sure you jump on that right now. Head over to mypillow.com and use promo code BRE.